Welcome back to the deep dive. I don't know about you, but for me, Bruce Lee is like instantly I picture those lightning fast kicks. And of course, the nunchucks.
Oh, iconic.
It's iconic.
Absolutely.
But today we're going deeper than just the martial arts legend.
Hmm.
You've given us this whole stack of material on Bruce Lee. Biographies, historical accounts, like articles written years after his death. And I'm just really curious to unpack the man behind the icon.
Yeah, his life was this fascinating kind of blend of East meets West, traditional, revolutionary.
Yeah.
To understand him, we really need to start with his childhood. Born in San Francisco, but raised in Hong Kong, he was navigating this complex cultural landscape, even from a really young age.
Yeah, and not exactly a typical childhood either. I mean, acting in films at 6 years old,
I know.
earning like serious money as a teenager,
Right.
even buying a pet monkey with his acting earnings. That's
Well, that monkey actually led to a pretty hilarious family incident. Apparently, Bruce's mom found the monkey using her expensive lipstick as a chew toy.
oh no.
Which I think even from that, you can kind of see a little bit of Bruce's personality coming out there, even as a kid.
Okay, so he was already a bit of a rebel, even before we get to the kung fu.
Definitely had that rebellious streak. He was getting into street fights, causing his parents a lot of worry, and they eventually decided to send him to America for a fresh start, hoping he would stay out of trouble.
So they sent him to America, and instead of calming down, he ends up revolutionizing martial arts.
Right.
Do you think his parents ever imagined that outcome?
Probably not. But it really was a turning point for Bruce.
Yeah.
It pushed him towards this path where he could combine that, natural charisma he had with his love for martial arts.
It's interesting to me that he starts learning Wing Chun Kung Fu.
Yeah.
Not for self-defense. He wants to win street fights.
He was extremely competitive. There's even a story about him bragging about knocking out an opponent's tooth during a fight, and this was with a much more experienced student. Although he did end up with a black eye himself, which he had to hide from his parents.
So that rebellious streak is pretty deep-rooted.
Yeah.
Do you think that same drive to, challenge and disrupt eventually leads him to create his own style, Jeet Kune Do?
Absolutely. Bruce was never satisfied with just limitations.
Right?
He saw the flaws in traditional kung fu, its rigidity, the emphasis on form over function.
Yeah.
He wanted a fighting style that was adaptable, efficient, that could be tailored to each individual.
He was always pushing boundaries, even in his personal life, right? Moving to America at 18, working as a dishwasher, living in this tiny room above a restaurant.
I mean, talk about hustle.
Yeah.
He was determined. While he was attending the University of Washington, he started teaching kung fu on the side to make ends meet. And it was during this time that he met Linda Emery, who later became his wife.
But their relationship wasn't all smooth sailing, was it? I mean, didn't her family disapprove?
Linda's parents actually disowned her for marrying Bruce.
Wow.
Which really shows you kind of the social barriers and prejudices they faced, as an interracial couple in the 1960s.
That puts things into perspective. But their love story prevails. They have their son, Brandon, and Bruce continues to build his own path. This seems like this period really sets the stage for his later success.
It was a time of immense growth, both personally and professionally. He was constantly refining his skills, teaching, running his own schools, and all the while developing this unique style of his, Jeet Kune Do.
So Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist, what exactly makes it so revolutionary?
So, unlike those traditional styles, Jeet Kune Do emphasizes adaptability, efficiency, personal expression. It's not about adhering to rigid forms, but about using what works best in any given situation.
Okay.
You can kind of think of it as a philosophy of combat as much as a fighting style.
So it's less about memorizing techniques and more about understanding the principles behind them.
Exactly. Bruce was always learning, researching, experimenting. He was a big believer in drawing inspiration from different sources. He even incorporated elements of fencing into Jeet Kune Do.
Wow. He was ahead of his time in a lot of ways. He was one of the first to use protective gear, really emphasize full contact sparring in his training.
He knew that those traditional training methods often lacked practicality. He wanted his students to be prepared for real-life situations.
It wasn't just about fighting, though, was it?
Yeah.
It was about personal growth, pushing your limits, expressing yourself.
Right.
He had this famous quote about being like water.
Right. Bruce was this deep thinker who was constantly exploring philosophical ideas. He saw martial arts as this path to self-discovery and personal liberation.
And speaking of liberation, his move to Hollywood is another attempt to break free from limitations, isn't it? But he faces a whole new set of challenges there.
Absolutely. He had a taste of fame with the Green Hornet, but playing the sidekick, Kato just wasn't enough for him. He wanted leading roles, but Hollywood wasn't ready to embrace an Asian leading man.
It must have been incredibly frustrating for someone as talented and charismatic as Bruce Lee to be typecast and denied opportunities.
There's a story about him actually threatening to, quote, flatten anyone who objected to a Chinese actor playing Kato, who was originally written as Japanese in the script.
Wow, so he was already pushing back against Hollywood stereotypes and fighting for better representation. He knew his worth and wasn't afraid to demand respect.
And that fighting spirit ultimately led him back to Hong Kong, where his career truly took off.
Interesting.
We'll delve into that after a short break.
Stay with us, folks. We're just getting started on this deep dive into the world of Bruce Lee.
You know, Bruce's return to Hong Kong, it wasn't just about finding better roles. It feels like something deeper was going on there.
I was just thinking that. It seems like there was this whole other layer of reclaiming his cultural identity.
Yeah,
You know?
definitely. I mean, he was born in America, raised in Hong Kong,
Yeah.
so he always kind of existed between these two worlds.
Yeah.
And in Hong Kong, he finally found this place where he could really be fully himself as a martial artist and as a Chinese man.
And his first Hong Kong film, The Big Boss, was a massive hit.
It was.
What was it about that film that made such a splash?
Well, it showcased his incredible martial arts skills, obviously, but it also, tapped into this sense of cultural pride that resonated so deeply with audiences. I mean, here he was, a Chinese hero fighting for justice in a way that had never really been seen before.
He was more than just an action star. He was a symbol
Yeah.
of strength, of resilience.
Exactly. And he continues to break box office records with films like Fist of Fury, which, dealt with anti-Japanese sentiment. And this is during a time when those feelings were still very raw in Hong Kong.
It's amazing how he was able to channel those complex emotions into these powerful performances.
He had this undeniable charisma, this raw intensity that just drew people in. And he was a perfectionist, insisted on doing his own stunts, even when they were incredibly dangerous.
That dedication to his craft.
Yeah.
And he wasn't just focused on the action.
Right.
He was also challenging, the way Asian characters were portrayed in film.
Totally. He refused to play stereotypical roles, demanded script approval, creative control over the fight choreography.
Wow.
He wanted to showcase authentic martial arts on screen and present a more nuanced and respectful image of Asian men.
So he's breaking new ground in terms of representation, in terms of storytelling.
His fight scenes were revolutionary.
Yes.
They were so fast, so precise, so full of energy.
It's like watching a force of nature, really.
And it wasn't just about the physicality either.
Oh,
He
no.
brought this philosophical depth to his characters too,
Right.
He often incorporated his own beliefs about self-improvement, personal liberation into the stories. His films were entertaining, but they also had this deeper message about pushing your limits and striving for excellence.
So it's no wonder he became a global phenomenon.
I mean, his films broke box office records worldwide.
Yeah.
He inspired a whole generation of martial artists and helped popularize martial arts in the West.
He really did change the game. But even at the height of his success, wasn't there some conflict, with the directors he was working with in Hong Kong?
Yeah, he had a very public feud with director Lo Wei, who directed his first two Hong Kong films.
What caused that rift?
I think Bruce felt like Lo Wei was trying to control him,
Okay.
to take credit for his success, to limit his creative freedom.
So what does he do?
He decides to direct his own film,
Wow.
Way of the Dragon, which also starred Chuck Norris.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah.
The final fight scene at the Colosseum in Rome,
Iconic.
it's legendary.
It is.
And it shows just how ambitious Bruce was. He wasn't content with being just an actor.
Right.
He wanted to control his own destiny,
Yeah.
bring his unique vision to the world. And Way of the Dragon, it's a huge success.
It was.
And it paved the way for his ultimate masterpiece, Enter the Dragon.
Enter the Dragon was a game changer. It was a co-production with Warner Bros., which gave Bruce access to a global audience,
This is the film that cemented his status as a legend.
It showcased everything that made him special.
Yeah.
The incredible martial arts skills, the charisma, the philosophical depth, the groundbreaking action choreography.
Still considered one of the greatest martial arts films of all time.
And tragically, Bruce Lee died just a few weeks before its release.
Oh, that's right. It's such a heartbreaking reminder of how fragile life can be.
His death at the age of 32 shocked the world. I mean, he was at the peak of his powers, and his potential just seemed limitless.
But even though his life was cut short, he left behind an incredible legacy.
His impact on martial arts, entertainment, popular culture, it's undeniable. He was a true visionary who continues to inspire people all over the world.
And now let's explore kind of the deeper aspects of his legacy.
Okay.
The philosophy that shaped his life and his martial arts.
Bruce Lee was more than just muscles and kicks. He was a deep thinker who was fascinated by philosophy, psychology, personal growth. He saw martial arts as this path to self-discovery and a way to, express one's true potential.
He was constantly reading, writing about these topics.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I remember that famous quote, "Be like water, my friend."
Exactly. That quote, perfectly encapsulates his philosophy.
Yeah.
He believed in adaptability, fluidity, the ability to, overcome obstacles by flowing around them like water.
It's such a powerful metaphor.
It is.
And it wasn't just about physical adaptability, was it?
No, it was about mental and emotional flexibility as well.
Right.
He believed in being open to new ideas, constantly learning, evolving as a person. He had another quote about emptying your cup.
I've heard that one too.
Yeah.
What did he mean by that?
He was emphasizing, I think, the importance of humility and open-mindedness.
Okay.
If our cup is already full of our own opinions, our beliefs, we
Yeah.
can't really learn anything new. Right. We need to be willing to let go of our preconceptions, embrace different perspectives.
So it's about having this beginner's mind, always being willing to learn and grow.
Exactly. And that philosophy was central to his approach to martial arts. Jeet Kune Do wasn't this fixed style, but a process of constant evolution and adaptation. He encouraged his students to find their own path, to express themselves freely, and to never stop learning.
And his training methods were just as innovative as his philosophy.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't afraid to break with tradition and challenge the status quo.
He was always experimenting, always pushing the boundaries of what was possible. He was one of the first martial arts instructors to emphasize, realistic training, full contact sparring, cross-training in different styles.
Wow.
He understood that to be truly effective, you need to be prepared for anything.
He was truly ahead of his time in that regard. And his training wasn't just about physical strength technique. It was about developing mental focus, discipline, self-control.
He believed that true strength comes from within. He was a big advocate for meditation, mindfulness practices, to cultivate inner peace and clarity.
He saw the connection between the mind and body long before it became mainstream.
And his training regimen was incredibly intense. He was dedicated to physical fitness, pushed himself to the limit. Strength training, cardiovascular conditioning, flexibility, and a very strict diet.
He was known for his incredible physique, his dedication to maintaining peak physical condition.
But for Bruce, it wasn't just about looking good.
Right.
It was about achieving this level of physical and mental mastery that would allow him to really express his full potential.
As a martial artist, as a human being.
Yeah.
It's amazing how his training methods have influenced so many martial artists, fitness enthusiasts over the years.
His impact is undeniable. He elevated martial arts from a fighting style to a philosophy of life.
Wow.
And his legacy continues to inspire people around the world to strive for excellence, both physically and mentally.
But as we delve deeper into his legacy, we also have to address kind of the mystery surrounding his untimely death. What are your thoughts on the various theories that have been circulating for years?
Well, the official cause of death was cerebral edema, which is swelling of the brain. But there have been many questions raised about the circumstances surrounding his passing.
Right.
And several alternative theories have emerged.
It's fascinating and a little bit unsettling how his death has become almost as legendary as his life.
It is.
Some people believe that he may have had an allergic reaction to a painkiller he was taking for a headache. Others suggest that he may have been the victim of a rare martial arts technique known as the dim mak, or death touch.
Right.
That sounds straight out of a kung fu movie.
It does, doesn't it? But there's really no scientific evidence to support the dim mak theory.
Okay.
And while an allergic reaction is a possibility, it's never been conclusively proven.
So the true cause of Bruce Lee's death remains a mystery.
Unfortunately, yes. It's one of those enduring enigmas that continues to fascinate and intrigue people.
Despite the unresolved questions surrounding his death,
Yeah.
his impact on the world is undeniable.
It is.
He was a true icon who transcended cultural boundaries and left an enduring legacy.
His philosophy, his martial arts, his films, his charisma, his dedication to self-improvement, all of these elements have contributed to his lasting fame and influence.
And what do you think is the most significant aspect of his legacy? What continues to resonate with people today, decades after his passing?
I think it's his message of self-empowerment and personal transformation.
Okay.
Bruce Lee believed that everyone has the potential to achieve greatness, to break free from limitations, and to become the best version of themselves.
And he walked the walk.
Yeah,
He lived his philosophy every day,
he did.
pushing himself to his limits and inspiring others to do the same.
He was a true pioneer who challenged conventions, broke down barriers, and paved the way for Asian representation in Hollywood. His story continues to inspire people around the world to embrace their individuality, to pursue their dreams, and to never give up on their potential.
It really is amazing, like, even decades after his passing, how strong his influence still is.
Yeah.
You see it in martial arts, movies, even in just pop culture.
Yeah, it's a testament to like the power of his ideas and how much of an impact he made in such a short time.
So we've talked about his rebellious beginnings, dedication to martial arts, his struggles, triumphs in Hollywood, his incredible success in Hong Kong cinema, and, ultimately his untimely death. But what does this all mean? Like, what are the key takeaways from this deep dive into Bruce Lee?
It's so much more than fighting.
Right.
Bruce Lee's life was really a journey of self-discovery,
Yeah.
of breaking down barriers,
Mhm.
of pushing limits and challenging expectations.
He wasn't afraid to be different, to go against the grain, even when it meant facing criticism or rejection.
He was driven by this like really deep inner belief in himself and his vision. He knew what he wanted to achieve and was relentless in pursuing his goals.
And he wasn't just a dreamer.
Right.
He was a doer.
Yeah.
He put in the hard work, the discipline, the constant learning, self-improvement
Mm-hmm.
to turn his vision into a reality.
I think there's a lesson there for all of us.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just have dreams. You got to be willing to put in the effort to make them happen.
And I think that's one of the reasons why he continues to resonate with people today.
Mm.
He embodies that spirit of pushing boundaries, of striving for excellence,
Yeah.
becoming the best version of yourself.
He was a master of self-promotion, but it wasn't just about like the fame or the fortune.
Right.
He wanted to use his platform to like inspire others, to challenge stereotypes, to
Yeah.
promote a message of like unity and personal empowerment.
He was a bridge between cultures,
Yeah.
blending Eastern and Western philosophies,
Mm-hmm.
ancient wisdom with modern ideas.
His philosophy wasn't just about fighting. It was about life. Be like water. Adapt and overcome. Empty your cup. Be open to new knowledge and perspectives.
And these are like ideas that are just as relevant today as they were during his lifetime.
Oh, absolutely.
And his impact on martial arts is undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
He revolutionized the way we think about training, combat, the connection between mind and body.
He showed the world that martial arts is more than just fighting.
Right.
It's a path to self-discovery,
Yeah.
a form of self-expression, a way to unlock your full potential.
And his films, even though they were made decades ago, still hold up today. They're entertaining, they're action-packed.
Well, yeah.
But they also have this deeper layer of meaning, right? Exploring themes of identity, justice, personal growth.
They do.
Bruce Lee was a true visionary, a pioneer who challenged the status quo and left an indelible mark on the world. His life may have been tragically cut short, but his legacy continues to inspire, generations of artists, athletes, thinkers.
And, what I find most fascinating is that, like, his story is still unfolding. New books, documentaries, articles are constantly being released, shedding new light on his life and work.
That's what's so great about these deep dives, isn't it?
It is.
We can explore a topic from multiple angles, but it's really just the beginning. Like it sparks new questions,
Yeah.
new avenues for exploration.
Absolutely. And in the case of Bruce Lee, there's a wealth of material out there for anyone that wants to go even deeper.
So to our listener, what aspect of Bruce Lee's life or work resonates most with you? What are your own takeaways from this deep dive? Bruce Lee's life and legacy offer, endless possibilities for exploration and reflection. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Bruce Lee. We'll be back soon with another fascinating exploration.